UFC fans, you need to be very, very careful if you are betting on the card this weekend. There are a lot of good fights to bet on. Like, for example, I really like Kevin Holland in the matchup of Michael Chiesa, but there is one big important thing that you need to take into consideration specifically this week if you're betting. So we're going to get into that in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's talk about UFC betting. So, UFC 291, guys. UFC 291 takes place in Salt Lake City, and that is at Elevation. Do you guys remember the last time that the card took place? They had a UFC card at Elevation. Almost every single fighter on the card gassed out, except for, I believe it was Kamaru Usman, who trains at Elevation, by the way. You need fighters, and this is the problem, because so many fighters will gas out, you become sloppy, your game plan won't work, and you could get caught. And the point is, anything can happen in these fights, so this is why you need to be insanely careful. The only two fighters that are used to Elevation on this card are Justin Gaethje and Miranda Maverick, who both train at Team Elevation, which I believe is higher than Salt Lake City. This is why you guys need to be incredibly careful when you're betting, because let's say, for example, okay, I really like Stephen Thompson in his matchup against Michel Pereira. He looked fantastic in his last fight, and I believe that Stephen Thompson could keep him at bay and do whatever he wants in that fight. I really like him, but you got to take into consideration that he's 40 years old, he's slowing down, and his cardio is already going to be a problem soon at 40 years old. Who knows if that body can keep up with the Elevation in a fist fight, the UFC fight, the highest level of competition. It's just a question. If this wasn't in Salt Lake City, I'd be all over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm still confident that he'll win. I think he will take the preparations needed. But still, it's something you need to take a look at. Take Jan Blachowicz, for example. Jan Blachowicz, 40 years old too. I believe he's getting towards 40 if he's not 40 already. You need to take into consideration these older fighters and fighters that are prone to already gassing out, like a Michel Pereira. You got to take into consideration somebody like maybe CJ Vergara, who puts every single ounce of energy into his fights, and he's constantly moving forward, constantly throwing shots, using up so much cardio like a guy like Dustin Poirier maybe. Will Dustin Poirier be able to have the same output that he usually does? And he was already brought into a war with a guy like Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje, this will be nothing for him. So the only two fighters that you know are going to come in as they usually are Justin Gaethje and Miranda Maverick. The entire rest of the card is very spotty, okay? There are a lot of fights that I'm confident in, but I am also betting this weekend knowing that the upsets could happen. I'm betting this weekend expecting the fighters. Do you guys not remember that after every single round for the fights, like every fighter was either hanging on the cage like they were dying, or they were like sitting like this, you know, like sometimes like Dustin Poirier does in his fights. Every single fighter was doing that. Luke Rockhold looked like he was going to die in that fight. You know, Luke Rockhold could have the same, these fighters could have the same problem as Luke Rockhold did, like Jan Blachowicz, people up there in age, and it's not even just them. You can gas out. Like, you really expect Derek Lewis to go? Derek Lewis is going to have 1 minute of fight in him, you know? Maybe he can land that bomb, but maybe he will physically not be able to land that bomb. You get the point, guys. This problem that they're fighting at Salt Lake City is huge, and you need to be very careful if you're betting on this card. Very careful. It might be best to not bet at all, okay? The uncertainty is at a complete high right now. I'm still going to bet. I'm still going to have fun. I usually have fun with my betting. I don't bet to just throw my whole bank account on there and hope for the best. You know what I mean? I bet to get a little bit of money here and there. You know, I pull out. I am very safe with my betting. I like to pull my money out and just have a slow increase. So it's no big deal if I lose some. Okay. I play around with $10, $20. I just really want you guys to be careful because there's a lot of favorable matchups here. Like Bobby Green, there's a lot of fighters who you would expect to just overly perform and do very well in these fights. Okay. You need to take this into consideration. Elevation is huge. Remember the last card. If you haven't seen the last card, go watch just a couple fights on it. Pretty much every single fighter was gassing out and moving slowly. I highly suggest you take into consideration over 1.5 round bets for the fights because fighters will be gassing out this card, and that's why I'm jumping on a lot of them this week. Guys, let me know if you're going to be betting on this weekend, and thank you so much for watching, everybody. On the screen right now, you'll have 2 videos from the Clenbat channel if you'd like to continue watching. I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.